Welcome to the Words Matter Podcast, where conversations aren't just interviews, they're leadership moments. I'm your host, Christopher Rivers, speaker, coach, and founder of Chris Rivers RAPP. And I believe the words we choose shape the culture we lead. Today, I'm joined by two men that embody what it means to compete, lead, and inspire beyond the game and off the court. Both are Portland basketball legends that have taken that competitive fire and incorporate lessons learned on the hardwood to build extraordinary careers in business, education, community, and most important, family. First off, Reggie Guyton, who describes himself as a serial entrepreneur for more than 30 years of owning successful operations in the insurance space, and Tony Hampton, the founder and managing principal of AVH Consulting, a company focused on guiding businesses to growth and success. And most recently, together, they co-host the Runn It Back Podcast, where sports, business, and leadership intersect. I'm honored to welcome my brothers, Reggie Guyton and Tony Hampton, to the show. Gentlemen.
My man.
Good morning.
Rivers.
Appreciate y'all getting up so early.
How you doing? Yes.
Just to let y'all know, it's October 5th. We're at the Alberta Street Pub, and it's really like 8:30 a.m.
Yes.
And we was together last night celebrating Reggie's 40th wedding anniversary, and I'm not sure what time they went to bed, but I did not get my full night of sleep. So,
No.
fellas, I appreciate you guys just giving your time for us to come together. When we started this journey, July of 2023, we were in 3 different places. We were hopping on Zooms talking about how do we build a podcast? Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. And I remember I was in Utah one time on the phone. I was in the car. You were in Arizona. You were in PDX. And I think what connected us together was we just each had a passion that we wanted to share what we've learned, starting with basketball being the epicenter, but how that's spin off obviously into family, into business, into a whole bunch of different facets. So that's how we're just gonna wrap about it, if you guys are okay with that.
Yeah, that's good. Perfect.
I got a script, I got questions here, but I'm really coming from the heart. Why don't y'all just let the audience know more about who you are, where you're from. We always know that this is Portland-based right now, but I think it's important. So let's start with you, Tony.
Yeah, so obviously Tony Hampton, and born and raised from Portland, Oregon, and just love this community. Grew up playing ball here. Was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to play high school ball here at Grant and move on and play at college basketball at Montana State. And I think a lot of things that we're going to talk about, a lot of the lessons that I learned from that athletic experience, I've been able to transition into my business, the business world.
Right.
Work for a number of different Fortune 100 companies in the technology industry and mainly go-to-market leadership roles.
Okay.
And so my parents are still here.
That's a blessing.
I'm just excited about having the opportunity to kind of talk about some of the lessons we've learned and how we can apply it in our life and business and family and all those kinds of things. So it's great to be back home and spend some time with you on this podcast.
Welcome back home. And before we go to Reggie, I want you to know that I heard you say Fortune 100, not Fortune 500.
Yeah, Fortune 100,
okay.
Yes.
That shrinks that list down a little bit. Well, welcome back home.
Yes.
RG.
My man. Yeah, Reggie Guyton, Jefferson High School, as my man Keith Jackson would say, the greatest high school on this side of heaven.
Yeah, I don't know.
Graduated in 1980 from there, JC down in Lambin, finished up at Willamette, played there, coached there, got my MBA there, started my own insurance agency in 1993. Since that time, started a couple of other serial companies. State Farm is what I do, it's who I am. But to keep me challenged, keep me interested, keep me focused, I've done other things, including AAU basketball.
No doubt.
I'm happy to say that, put 30-some kids in the colleges, and, I've enjoyed it. And like you said, just celebrated my 40th anniversary. I appreciate both you brothers being a part of that. And I'm excited to be here, man. Just chop it up.
Yeah, we might have to get back into some of last night's festivities and storytelling a little bit later.
There you go.
Reggie, you mentioned that AAU basketball is something that you invest in a lot. Obviously, both of your sons were talented basketball players, and that's how we met. I was trying to go back to think how old little Reg was. I moved here in 99. I know Reg graduated in 05. 05 or 06?
He was 06. He was class 06.
Him and Seth, same class.
Yeah.
Okay, so I remember when they were like, shit, I must have been 6th, 7th grade when we started connecting. So to think it just, and to see Reg as a dad, as a comedian, he's the worst referee I know. I just got to look, he's Little Reg, you're the worst referee I know. He's the most entertaining. But all that to say is that how basketball, I didn't play at the level you guys played at, but what I really want people to pick up on, especially young black men, young people in high school, realize that sports doesn't have to stop because you're not putting on a jersey.
Yeah.
When you advance through college or vocational, whatever your challenge, you're just going to wear a different jersey. And that competitive spirit, the need to be successful, that fire to wake up every morning doesn't have to stop. So what I want to ask both of you, one at a time, is how did growing up in Portland basketball from teenage through high school year shape you? I mean, when Kanan was on episode 1, which just gave me a lot of game on Portland, obviously Michael Hawthorne being the executive producer of this show, but talk about just how playing basketball at a competitive level shaped both of you and catapulted you as men.
I'll start out. I mean, I think for me, growing up in Portland, it's a little bit unique in Northeast Portland because it's a smaller kind of confined area. Mm-hmm. You know, the mecca of basketball here is Irving Park. All play at. And the players are so competitive that you learn that you have to be prepared. You have to have an extreme work ethic. You have to be willing to deal with some failures because some days you're going to get your butt kicked a little bit. Yep. You have to be willing to bounce back from that. So you have to be resilient. And so I think it teaches you how to be extremely competitive, but how to also figure out, you know, how do I go about finding a way to win? I had a coach who used to tell me all the time, and you talk about words matter. I think it's very important, your podcast, because 30 years ago, my coach used to always say, hey, Ham, I need you to find a way to win. And I used to think he used to be just talking. And now today, even in my life, when I'm going through a challenge, you know, I think about that because now he's not letting me, you can't let yourself off the hook. You need to find a way to figure it out and make it happen. So yeah, that experience growing up here definitely fosters and cultivates an attitude of resiliency.
Which coach was that who said that?
That was Stu Starner at Montana State.
Montana State.
Yeah.
And you played for him for 4 years?
I played for him for 4 years, yes. He was my coach for 4 years. And things that your coaches say to you at that time, sometimes you blow it all.
Right.
Man, that was 30 plus years later. And if I'm dealing with a difficult situation, maybe it might be family, it might be relationships, it may be at work, you know, you can't let yourself out the hook. You better find a way to figure. I could hear them saying, you better find a way to win. He's transferring that accountability to you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. He's empowering you to say, you've got to figure it out. And so that's something that you learned at Portland. Growing up here, you better figure it out. And also, as you go on to play high school and college basketball, you've got to be able to figure that stuff out.
Good. Reggie, please add on to that, whether it's Irving Park or Jefferson High School.
I would just say from a basketball standpoint, from a guard standpoint, man, there's a ton of guards that preceded me and Tony and have followed since me and Tony. Those have gone to the league, like Terrell Brennan, Damon Stoudemire, and the list go on. But before them, you know, there was us. You know, before us, there were others. Willie Stoudemire, right? Howard Avery. I mean, the names can just drop off. But what I can say is that playing basketball against those guards and seeing those guards, when I did play college basketball, there was nothing that I hadn't seen before. Like, there was nothing that I could not do to counter what I was seeing, whether or not it was coming at me or defending me, because in these streets, in these parks in Portland, we was getting it in every single day. So we were being trained for that level of competition. Mm-hmm. And then same thing coaching. So, you know, starting out with Seth and those guys at a very young age, when we started the AAU program, which Tony, you did not know this, Tony was one of the founders, right? Myself, Tony.
Of the Portland Panthers?
Or what was it called?
Transitioned
into Portland Panthers, but it was ICA basketball. And then once we got on the national forum, we had to throw Portland in there. Right. But in either case, coaching those guys, we instructed them from day one on college basketball. It wasn't three-man weave and other just basic basketball things. It was understanding the game on a large perspective. And I think that that's the one thing that you get coming out of Portland, particularly from that guard platform, is that you see the whole floor. You can see what's happening now, what's about to happen, and you forget about what did happen. And I think that's what Tony and I both use in our business background, is that we have the ability to see around the corner just based off of those skill set.
I think it's very special the way that you guys still talk about the dynamics of Portland basketball in the late 70s, early 80s, late 80s. I mean, you guys still speak about it with reverence. And I know you're not here anymore on a day-to-day basis, but Reg, do you guys feel like today's youngsters still feel that connection to even 20 years ago that you guys feel?
I do not, and it's not a reflection on them. I just think it's society in general.
Right.
I think in all cities, right, particularly major cities, you've had gentrification, you've had suburbia happen, and so you don't have that real sense of community.
Right.
We had a sense of community. So we would take our battles in these parks and these schools, Portland Public Schools to be specific, and then we would branch out to college. Well, now there's not a lot of folks that's in the gyms. Number one, they ain't in the gym. I mean, they're not in the parks.
Not in the parks, for sure. Yeah.
They're doing the individual workouts, right? So it's changed, and because of that, you in their own little bubble now, and you're not in this big, huge, massive educational opportunity out there on those on the court. So yeah, it's changed.
Okay, can you guys recall any battles between Grant and Jefferson when you guys were both in high school?
Oh my God.
Be honest with it now. I mean, this is words matter. Like, we want to hear about it.
Yeah. It was always a battle with Jeff. Jeff is the school of champions. I mean, that's the slogan, and they've won a number of different championships. But Grant and Jeff always is going to be sold out. It's always going to be extremely packed. One thing probably one of the experiences he's going to talk about that you probably don't want me to
I'm not going to talk about it.
You probably don't want me to bring it up.
That's why we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it.
So just very quickly, I was a freshman, so I wasn't on varsity at that time.
Let's make sure we put this. Class of 82, class of 80.
Yeah. And I actually went to a game between Grant and Jeff. It was so sold out, I couldn't get into like the last minute of the game.
Wow. And
finally, I managed to get in the game. It was sold out. And actually, Grant was down by 10. No three-point line. And to make a long story short, Grant ended up coming back and winning that game. Down by 10 with less than 10 minutes to go. So we always talk about that. It was one of the best games ever played.
Sounds like there was some breakdown on Jefferson's backcourt.
There was. I don't know. I wouldn't say the breakdown on Jefferson's backcourt.
I mean, hold on, up 10?
Up 10 with less than a minute to go.
And lose?
Yeah, and they lost that one.
It ain't the
Yeah, just a series of things happened.
Yeah.
But one of the best games I've ever been to. I mean, that was Phil Hobson, Reggie Guyton, Kevin McMillan on the other side, all those kind of players. But that was one of the historic games in the history of Portland basketball.
Man, let me set the tables. So it was number one, it was a PIO championship game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So back in the day, the PIO was structured PIO East, PIO West.
Mm-hmm.
And the winners, the first place winners of each conference would play each other. And the winner would go on to the state championship. The loser would drop down and play the winner of the second place games. So win the PIO championship, neutral site, playing at Benson. Yes, we're up 11 with 1:14 to go. That's why you could get in the gym, because the game was over, people was leaving. That's how you could get in, right? So, man, it's all a blur. All I remember is Jay Kirschman dropping in what would be a 3, but it was a deuce to tie it. Went to triple overtime. One of the overtimes, neither team scored. We lost, but we prevailed and got to stay because we beat Madison the next.
Okay,
that's true. Settled there, you go.
Sidebar,
and your boy hit the shot.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Did you win more than one state championship?
I didn't win any. All 4 years I was at Jeff. Probably the best team during the time I was there was 78. which I wasn't part of, but my boy Phil was a part of that. They had a real good team. They should have won state. I mean,
Right.
I can't tell you why they didn't, but they were not young.
As you guys know from being in our current chapter lives, those high school memories don't fade.
Yeah.
They may not be as clear through these glasses as they used to be, but I had a fumble one time in a game that my boy Alex Bolden, he won't let me, I shouldn't forget it. Hitch, all I had to do was catch it, and there was nothing but green grass in the end zone. I still feel it today. I still feel it today, but I don't ever want to not feel that way. So when I'm telling my children and the young people I'm mentoring, what you do today matters. It's not going to adversely affect your life where you can't bounce back for it, but give your all to it. So
let me get back to that, because that story here is, I've never cried after a loss, right?
Okay.
I've been pissed after a loss, but never cried. So that particular game, and this speaks to our community, right? One of the players on that team was from the same neighborhood that me and Tony are from, right? His name is Avery Penny, right? And I grew up with Avery. Avery and I played on the same grade school team from Mr. Walden, ASP, Alabama Skirts Program.
I'm about to get to that next.
So he went to Grant. So anyway, long story short, man, we lose a game. We're in the locker room, heads are down, and Grant's coming down. They walk past our door, celebrating, and it wasn't until I heard Avery's celebration that it sank, and it hurt. And that's when the tears came. I not before or after, I never lost or cried because of the game.
That's powerful. Let's talk about Phil Walden, who I'm not familiar with, and ASP. Describe what ASP was or is, how you got involved, and the impact that Phil had on shaping you.
Man, Mr. Walden was the most central figure in my life. When I moved up from LA.
Watts?
Watts.
Okay.
Yep. So when we moved up, we moved into the Woodlawn School District, where Woodlawn Park is. Those used to be houses there, right? And so anyway, my family moved into the area. I went to Woodlawn, and Phil Walden was the PE teacher. And Phil saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, right? He saw that I was athletic, right? And so he recruited me. When I say recruited me, he recruited me because I didn't want to participate in team sports. Hell, I didn't even know what team sports was. Mm-hmm. But he wanted me to play flag football and play basketball and run track, right? And so anyway, I did. And once I did, man, I never looked back.
Wow.
And but the most central point about Phil Walden wasn't what happened on the field or on the track or on the court. Man, it's how he did it. Mr. Walden had, I don't know what year it was, but it was an old station wagon. And he would go around and pick up all these kids in the area and take us to our Golden Ball games, right? Mr. Walden never asked for a penny to purchase uniforms, for entry fees, for practice time, or anything, right? And he just created a community or culture that I was able to, in my mature years, when I built the AAU program, to use that as a centerpiece. So I never charged my players anything. I negotiated gym time. If there was a cost associated with it, I paid for it.
So a lot of your players have Mr. Walden to thank for the values
no doubt.
and example he set in you guys.
Without a doubt.
That's huge.
Without a doubt. And so that's how he shaped me, man. It was, obviously he introduced me to basketball and I fell in love with it, but it's how he did it and what he was doing. I didn't understand it at the time, but once I, crossed the finish line with my career and began my own college career and trying to get back to the community, that was the template. He set the template.
ASP, does that stand for anything?
Albina Sports Program.
Albina Sports Program.
Albina was the black neighborhood, right here in Mississippi. Yeah, on Albina.
It looks a little different now.
A lot different.
Yeah.
A lot different.
Tony, you mentioned your parents and Coach Stu as being just some of the key influences in your life. Can you share some of the similarities? I mean, you were Grant High School. Yeah. You left here and went to Montana.
No.
Had you ever been to Montana before?
Never.
Did you know where Montana was?
No.
So just talk about, first off, I think we undervalue that you guys were able to use basketball as a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Even when Canaan was here, going to college wasn't even an option. We're going to college. We're getting degrees. We're starting. So talk about how that transition, what your parents instilled in you, gave you the ability to go process what Coach Stu was giving to you. I'm sure it wasn't all good days. I'm sure there wasn't a lot. There's still not a lot of people that look like us. And just talk about some of those experiences that shape you, that gave you the inspiration and the courage to go on and build what you've built in your life.
I mean, your parents, obviously play a significant role, and both of my parents worked in the community. My mom was an executive for Wells Fargo for 40 plus years. My dad worked up on the Hill for OHSU. He was an open heart technologist, and so both of them, without saying it, you're watching them get up and go to work every day.
Right.
Discipline in their approach about how they did that, raising us, me and my brother, Brian. So just watching their example of how they went about their business had a major influence on me. And if I wanted to have anything close to they had, that I had to make sure that I was able to role model that in my own life. And so they just taught me the work ethic, to be resilient, to be disciplined in terms of how I approach my life. And then what Reggie and I were talking about earlier, when you went outside the home, you're in this community, you're in these parks and you're balling and you're picking up that competitive piece and learning how to compete. And I think like Reggie said, and you articulated well, is that you see so many good ballers that once you begin to transition to a college level, there's really not much you hadn't seen before.
Right.
So in terms of when I ended up going to Montana State, one of my goals was to play D1 basketball. That was a major, major goal for me. And when I looked around Portland, even though there were a lot of great ball players at that time in the early 80s, I didn't see anyone that was my size, 6 foot and under, that was playing D1 ball. I mean, there were bigger players, you had, Richard Washington and you had AC Green. These guys are 6'7", 6'8". But in terms of a blueprint for somebody who's 6 foot and under, who's playing D1 ball, you looked around, there was no necessarily a blueprint for that.
Right.
So I kind of had to try to figure that out. And Oregon helped me cultivate that with the competitive, battles you had. And then when I got the opportunity to go to Montana State and get an opportunity to play for Stu Starner, I had made a decision and a commitment that this is what I want to do. And I wanted to also, play 4 years, graduate from college. And so I had already made that commitment and decision. So I was going to be able to deal with whatever Stu was going to throw at me,
right,
because of that commitment that I made. But he was a tremendous influence on me because he transferred that accountability. Even though he was the leader, he was a coach, he was great at putting it on you as a point guard to say, hey, I need you to be able to police this situation, to govern this situation, to lead these guys. I'm going to teach you how to do it, but I want you to figure it out. And if you don't figure it out, I can put Reggie in and you can sit on the bench with me and watch it. Right. So that puts a little bit of healthy pressure on you. And my coach Stu was great about making that happen. So I made a choice and a decision that wherever I went, I was going to stick through it. I was going to finish. I was going to graduate and have a great career doing that.
Let's stay on that healthy pressure for both of you. 2025 landscape of college basketball, significantly different.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent, wherever you feel on it. I work in the NIL space daily, working with young people, working with families. But the comment you just made about having to stick things out, I'm on the fence. Some days I think it's fantastic that these young men and women are able to go 9 months, change schools, get to a better situation, raise their income, whatever it is, I think it's great. Mm-hmm. But then I look at the other part of the lessons we're losing because the lack of stability. Yeah. And I don't have the answer, but I just like to know a little bit of how you guys see what you guys went through, which even just what little Reg went through, to just the flexibility that young athletes have now to just get up and move every 9 months. I was at a conference last week in Las Vegas, And one of the coaches said that it's very difficult to build culture when you're switching out your roster every 9 months.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
But that's with any organization. Yeah. So you guys can just talk about that a little bit.
A couple things. One is I love the financial piece of it. You know, the players, the income that the players have an opportunity to earn.
Right.
With the NIL, I think that's great. But when you talk about being able to transition and extract what you learn from a college experience and be able to transfer that into your life and your family life, I think that's where it can get a little bit challenged. Because I believe, and I've said this to him, that success is always on the other side of hard. And so if you get into a mode where every time something gets a little bit hard, a little bit difficult, you want to shift, you want to change, you don't learn how to deal with the hard, right? And so our podcast is named Run It Back, right? And so if you want to get to the other side, you have to be willing to run some things back because you're going to have some failures, some disappointments and things like that. And so the only thing I don't like about it is that players can easily transition to other places when they're dealing with the difficult times, maybe dealing with a coach that's holding them accountable. And you really don't necessarily learn how to deal with hard. And that transitions to other phases of your life that could impact your ability to be successful. So that's my view on it.
Yeah, I think it's new. I don't think we've seen the final product. Y'all remember Prop 48?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So, that was new, and it evolved over time. I think this whole NIL piece and transfer piece to portal, if you will, that's going to change over time. And so we don't know what it looks like, but I think that both moves are good moves, particularly for the student athlete.
Definitely.
Whether or not you're getting compensated or you have the ability to go somewhere else where, coach isn't giving you love, whatever it is, I think it's good for the athlete. But on the other end, I think that if you don't stick to it, if you don't learn discipline, you don't learn resilience, you don't learn patience, you don't understand, you don't learn the process, right? So just transferring out is not necessarily the answer. But at the same time, you should be given that opportunity. It's just like us. We have the opportunity to change careers.
Given the opportunity.
Yeah.
I always share with families that it's not my job to tell you what to do with your kid.
Right.
My 2 kids at home are enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's great that they have the opportunity, as you said. But when asked for advice, I say, know what you're running from and also what you're running to. Mm-hmm. If you're running. And then there's certain situations that just aren't healthy. None of us wants our kids to be in a situation where you guys are parents. Yeah. Oh, hell, get him out. What? Sure. I've sat behind the bench and had to bite my tongue when I thought Zach wasn't getting the type of PT. He should have. He probably should have been on the bench, but that's a whole nother conversation. He worked his way back. You worked your way back, son. Right. But I think those lessons, I think we just got to keep having these dialogues. Mm-hmm. So I get you only got 4 years. Mm-hmm. Maximize it. Right. Go. It means these young athletes getting real money or getting beyond real money.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have athletes making more than their parents. Yeah. Some 3, 4, 5, 6X.
Exactly.
So the opportunity to change things generationally, I think are amazing. Yeah. And I want to lean into that. I want to embrace that. I want to support it. Yeah. But there's not, what's the phrase? One shoe doesn't fit all. Right. Mm-hmm. Can't put a round peg into a square hole, so on and so on. I think that we just got to continue to have conversation and everything's not going to fit everybody, but we got to just keep having the education.
I think one of the areas that's really changing because of those changes is coaching, right? Because I think recruiting has changed, right?
Oh.
And so there's really no more competitive or financial advantage, if you will, because you got a larger paycheck. That's still going to be there, but I think you need executives now to run programs and not necessarily just coaches recruiting players and retaining.
And
it's going to
you've seen
management.
That's happening.
Yeah.
The GM position has become a staple in a lot of high-level basketball, football. I can't speak for baseball, other sports programs. And some of these GMs are out recruiting. Yeah, right. They're out in the gym like, let me look at these groceries I'm shopping for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I spoke to one GM at an ACC school. I won't say his name, but He told me, hey, you got any questions? Yeah. You don't have to call the head coach. Run everything through me.
Right.
On court, off court, anything that athletes need, everything's going through me. And they're running it like a business now. And they probably should.
Absolutely. And I think, just like you got a player of the year, coach of the year, I can see a GM of the year.
Oh, yeah.
That's an important spot.
That's sweet.
That people don't really pay attention to, that's, I think, behind the scenes.
Oh.
That's probably the most important one right now.
I have assistant coaches calling me now. Rivers, do you know any kids looking to being in the portal? Yeah. I'm like, bro, it's September 15th. Practice hasn't even started, none less look at running. Yeah. But they got to just start tracking that. So it's just a new endeavor. Now, I appreciate you guys giving us a little bit. I know we're going back and forth, but I just want this to be real organic. I want to switch to, I call this quarter 2, professional success and career growth. Reggie, you've owned your own business or a business 30 plus years. Yeah. Talk about some of the things when you were finishing up college that helped lead you to being a business owner, that helped you stay in the fight. You referenced when we prepared for this that sometimes you didn't know how you were doing payroll.
Yeah.
And so just talk about some of those struggles, but give me 2 or 3 things that have kept you locked into your core. Your core, as my man Nick Shiver says, your core non-negotiables, that no matter what was happening, no matter how much turbulence, you were able to stay the course. Because 30 plus years at State Farm Agency, that's a hell of a run, my man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. In fact, part of that, I'm going to hitch my wagon to something that Tony said earlier about what Stu told him. Man, you got to find a way to win, right? And really, in terms of hitting payroll, I'll never forget, man, because we have direct deposits in State Farm system, and comes on the 15th and the end of the month, just like everybody else, right? My paydays at the time were for my employees, was on the 15th and the end of the month as well. The beauty is I would get notification from State Farm what that check's going to look like 2 days prior to payday. And one day I opened up the envelope because we actually had envelopes back in the day. And man, it said I owed the company money. So I couldn't get payroll. I couldn't cover payroll. I couldn't cover rent. There was a lot of my own personal stuff. So I canceled all the appointments, man. And I went out and found a way just to make it happen. Right. I mean, I can't tell you what I did. I can't remember that. But I did keep a picture of that particular check stub. I have it to this day to remind me of that day. And it gives me a sense of belief in myself that if it happened again, whether that particular challenge or a similar challenge, that I can break through. Now, the key foundation of that, there's 2, is my faith, right? So, I truly believe in faith, and the true definition of faith is stepping out on something that's unseen.
Unseen.
No idea, right? And so whether or not it has been starting a business or entering into a market or starting an AAU program, which I knew nothing about at the time, I just stepped out on faith that, that God would push me through, right? The second pillar, if you will, of foundation, we celebrated her last night, my wife of 40 years. I mean, she's been there and she's the reason why when I've had those challenges, we could have real conversations and come up with real solutions. But the one thing that she would always take me back to is to God and faith. So that's how I've been able to break through.
Little Reg talked about you instilling faith in your family. I think he said 7 a.m. church on Sundays.
Yes.
I think he said breakfast after.
Yes.
Then he said golfing.
Yes.
Let's just stick on the faith thing. What did it feel like to hear your grown adult son reflect back on something that I can I hated getting up Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change it. What did it feel like as a dad knowing that it's not necessarily what they get in church, but it's the discipline, it's the accountability, it's the positive routines that I know shape me to everything I'm doing.
Yeah, it felt great to hear him say that. To be honest, out of all the things that were said, both him and Cameron's comments were the most touching of the evening. But I think you need to pay attention to the fact that who's looking. That's really what resonated with that comment to me. So whether or not it's Lil Reg or Josh Tarver talking to me later on that night, you never really know who's looking. And for him to be paying attention, because I told my wife when he said it, it's like, man, I didn't know he realized, right? And but for him to see that, and for him to also say, I'm not surprised that we here for a year.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
That was powerful.
that was very powerful, right? But man, we always have put God first, family second, and then everything else. Just go hard at it and be the best and be a light when you do it. When you do it, so good.
Gotta find a way. Yeah. All right, Tony, I don't know a lot about what you do. I want you to explain more about the companies you've worked with. Talk about maybe some of your journey professionally that someone listening to this might be. My son, Zach, who's 24, trying to find his vision, might be someone 35 who needs to make a pivot. If you could just give a kind of a detailed overview of here's what I do, here's how I got here, here's what basketball growing up in Portland has taught me that's made me be successful, because everything's about our roots. And you guys keep reflecting back to whether it's ASP or all these genuine competitive life development moments that you had that you guys keep in your back pocket everywhere you go. Share a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, so, I started off my career working for a company called Xerox. And,
Quite familiar.
In a go-to-market leadership role. Started out as a sales rep, knocking on doors, understanding products, talking to customers, that we're giving them the value proposition. And to me personally, what I've accomplished in my career, I never really envisioned, as a young kid, of actually doing some of the things that I've done. And from that launch of that experience working for Xerox and getting sales training. Matter of fact, Reggie is one of the individuals that introduced me to, at the time, Greg Holt, who turned me on to an opportunity of working for Xerox in a sales capacity, in a go-to-market role. And from there, that kind of launched my career into management roles, director roles, general management roles, where you really try to understand a product, a services. You've got a market you're going to with your customers, and you're trying to get customers to really adopt that product and service so you can grow your business and you can help your customers.
So I assume Xerox training must have been top notch.
Incredible. Some of the best sales training at the time that you could have. Matter of fact, it was so good that a lot of people would come work for Xerox to get the training and then move on and do something else.
Only other person I knew who went through Xerox training was Calvin Andrews.
That's his boy.
Yeah, I know that. So I just say that. And Calvin is my brother, my mentor. Yeah. I'm probably not sitting in this chair if it wasn't for Calvin. So knowing if you get two people you look up to who say something, and I just know training's important. I know leadership's important. So Xerox, I know technology's changed and their foothold in the market is definitely different than it used to be, but they obviously understood the sales piece.
Yeah, no question.
And development.
And, Calvin was a teammate of mine at Montana State as well.
I forget that.
But always been focused on, in that technology industry, working for Fortune 100 companies like Xerox, like IBM, like Kyndryl, as well as AWS, and really understanding the products, the value proposition, the service that we're providing, being able to take it out to customers and get customers to move and take action with their solutions. And then that has kind of catapulted me into being the founder and managing principal of my own company, which is ABH Consulting, where I help guide companies, right, with outcomes they're looking to deliver, whether trying to grow revenue or trying to find out what's the right technology and services to use in our business to help us get to our goals. And a lot of that's been formed by my experience growing up competitively and understanding that you've got to be persistent, you've got to prepare, you got to have a tremendous work ethic to be able to translate that into some of the business outcomes we've been able to deliver in the business world as well.
Thank you for that context. When did you launch ABH?
ABH 2 years ago, actually. So when we started in 23, was when I launched ABH Consulting. So that was a new experience for me, going out on my own, and starting this consulting company. But I learned there's a lot of businesses that are looking to find ways to how do we go to market? How do we develop a value proposition that could impact customers in a positive way? What management process and leadership process that we couldn't put in place to provide some governance around making that happen? And because of my experiences of working for, Fortune 100 companies, I thought I had the skill and training to be able to transfer and deliver that to a lot of customers. So
appreciate that context. Both of you, sports is our foundation, competition, discipline. Yeah. Share some of those principles, whether it's back to Irving Park, that helped you navigate corporate America. I mean, State Farm, I can't imagine how big the matrix is coming from being a regional, maybe a local office. You might have, I'm not sure how many offices there are in Portland, but just talk about how you fall back on your roots, going to JUCO, going to Willamette, and how many of those just things that you probably just took for granted that one day you were like, oh, I'm prepared for this. I've seen this before.
Yeah, I would say management, right? So building teams, inspiring others, setting goals, setting the discipline, putting processes in place to accomplish your goals. All of those things seem seamless. And the reason why they seem seamless is because we've pretty much been doing it all our lives through athletics, right? We've always been a part of a team. So we know we can recognize situations or that are cancerous, right? And to act now as opposed to later, because you could see the potential losses that you could take later because of that, right? Whether or not it's inaction or avoidance or just not being able to recognize it. Same with just leadership in general. I mean, you think about a title, right? Most people think because their name's out front or their title on the
SVP,
exactly.
founder / CEO.
Like that makes people want to follow. Well, that's not true, right? People follow leaders. They don't follow titles, right? So you really truly have to be a leader. And the best way to be a leader is to be a provider, to be an enabler, to be a trainer, right? To help them or put them in a position where they can be successful. And I think that's where coaching has come into play, is that, I've been able, because I can see the big picture versus that player that only is focused on his part.
Right.
It's the same thing in business, right? You have the person that handles accounts payable, he or she only knows that aspect of it. You have the person in the sales department, they only have that aspect of it. You have the IT guy, they only know that aspect of it. But you need to know how it all works together to reach that end goal. And I think, like I said, people think it's seamless and it's easy. It's difficult, it presents a challenge, but at the same time, like I said about basketball, I don't think I've seen anything that I can't achieve and be successful, because I've seen a similar challenge before. And then those folks, when we face those type of challenges, I'm able to get out in front of it and speak to them and inspire them, instead of putting their head down. Man, let's cross the finish line. Let's roll up our sleeve and get it done. Like I was telling Michael earlier, it's a good time to reinvent yourself, right? I've had to reinvent myself multiple times throughout my life in various aspects of life.
Right.
Whether or not it was being a single man, being a married man, being a married man with children, having parents, elderly parents, having to bury my parents. I mean, my end of life, being in insurance, particularly life insurance, I know how important it is to prepare for that.
Yes.
I prepared for that. When I was 22, that wasn't on the radar. 32, it wasn't on the radar. 42, it was on the radar, but I wasn't taking action, right? But you got to consistently reinvent yourself.
You're talking too close to home right now.
We've done it.
Before we jump to Hamp, name one or two leaders. You are a leader in various capacities of your life. You walk like a leader. You study, you prepare, you read like a leader. But give a shout out to one or two of those people besides Mr. Walden, who we spoke to earlier, who outside the athletic realms that you looked up to and said.
I appreciate the opportunity, man, because I want to give these brothers their roses, right? And it's two, right? It's Tony Hampton and Ray Leary.
Ray
Reason.
Kanan said, I didn't grow up here, but the effect they've had on this town, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's incredible the impact those men have had.
Yeah, Tony specifically, because Tony was number one, my best friend, my high school best friend's brother. So I had access to Tony in a manner in which a lot of other folks didn't, right? And so when I needed somebody to talk to, Tony was it. I'm a single child, right? And so I didn't have any brothers, right? I didn't have any brothers, sisters. Didn't have any uncles, right? Basketball was it for me, and Mr. Walden and those centers of influence were critical. But when I met Tony, Tony was the only person that I knew that had played basketball at the collegiate level, right? And I knew of Richard Washington because I'm watching him on TV, and I knew he played at Benson High School, and then went to UCLA. But Tony was so instrumental in my life, particularly connecting the dots between sports and education. I went to the same college he went to. He graduated from Willamette, and I went to Willamette.
Willamette's in Salem, Oregon, folks.
Right. And then secondly, Ray Leary. I feel that I have a unique ability to impact a room when I'm in that room. Mm-hmm. And it's because of my observation how Ray has impacted many rooms that he's stepped into. And it's not just necessarily how he has impacted that room, it's how he never compromised who he truly was in that room. Because we face different audiences all the time, whether or not they're young or old, rich or poor, black or white or whatever. He never compromised who he was, regardless of who was in front of him. And I've always tried to model that, and I've been inspired by that, and I look up to that. But locally, those are the three most important men in my life: Phil Walden, Tony Hampton, and Ray Leary.
Same question.
Yeah, there's been multiple people, and one individual that we hadn't talked about, right? It was my first coach I ever had. I didn't play for ASP. I played for Wallace Security.
Mistake.
Wallace Security at Baptist Community Center, and we used to beat ASP all the time.
So that's going to strike up a lot of comments.
Mike, you want to chime in the back?
Correct.
No camera content back then was being recorded.
Yeah, so I would say that I would say first from a leadership standpoint, because when you talk about basketball, he's the first person. He was my first coach, and he provided so much structure. So when you start looking at my high school coach, you start looking at my college coach, and I think about V.D. Simonson and how he conducted practice. I'm in the 4th grade, right? He ran his practices similar to how a lot of my high school coaches and college coaches ran. His level of his expectations. I remember the first time I went to practice, and practice started at like 4:00, mm-hmm. and I'm running to practice because I'm close to being late. He's standing at the top of the stairs saying, "Hey, you're almost late. You're here, but you're almost late." Just setting that expectation that, this is something different. So I played for him for my 4th year, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, and 7th grade. Wow. And I give VD a lot of credit in terms of shaping my mentality, in terms of how I looked at, I competed on a daily basis and how I operated. And then the second person I would definitely say Reggie. Reggie's been one of the people, even though we're he's a couple years older than me. But we talk about your son and things that could be used. I had somebody say to me one day that 3 things determine your success over the next 3 to 5 years for everybody. It's the people you meet, the choices you make, and the information or the books you read. And you think about I don't care who you are.
So simple.
You think about your life, and where you are today. It's related to those 3 things.
Please say it again.
There's no question.
Say it again, people you meet,
the choices you make, and the information you gather. So part of, VD and also Reggie impact on me is he's the first person I got around that was striving beyond basketball, who wanted to get his MBA.
Right.
And because I was around him so much, it was like silently saying, hey, yo, you better step your game up because you're hanging around Reggie, who's got aspirations from a business perspective. And it was good to have those kind of connections. So V.D. Simonton, Reggie Guyton, and also my coach, Stu Starner was a huge influence with me. I tell one quick story that when I was in college, and Reggie knows this story, they do the scouting report. Mm-hmm. And I was a sophomore in college, and the team that we were playing, they were really talking about the two guard who was averaging about 20 points a game. And my coach told me, hey, don't worry about, the point guard, whatever, you got that piece handled. And I get out there, and because my experience is playing in Portland, on the tip, when he had the ball, I could tell that the scouting report was messed up. There was something not right because he was not even looking at me.
Right.
And I was all over him. He was, doing his thing. He had about 14, 15 points close to halftime. Coach calls me out before halftime and says, hey, what the hell is going on? I said, hey, Coach, the scouting report was wrong. This guy can play. And that was John Stockton. So
you think?
And he said that's one of the things he said. He said, hey, you better figure it out.
Man.
Or you can figure it out here, watch somebody else do it.
John Stockton was a problem.
John Stockton was a problem.
Hell yeah, he's a problem.
So having those experiences and a coach like that was willing to transfer that accountability to you as a leader and trusting you to lead was very impactful for me.
It's great to hear you guys give flowers to these men who've impacted you and still remain influential in everything that you do. And hearing you talk about it, knowing I first met you with the Portland Panthers and thinking about you taking them to nationals with just those group of Portlands all the way up to the Phil Nelsons and so many others we could go on, I think it's special. Tony, you talk about working in, I'm gonna make sure I get it right, Fortune 100 companies, multi-million-dollar organizations. How have you balanced authority towards empowering your teams? I mean, I know you've probably led bigger teams, you've been a piece of teams, but it gets to a point where we all, Reggie alluded to, we want to see what the business, how many three-letter things we can get on our business card and how good that feels. But how did you make sure you became the leader you wanted to be, where people wanted to work with you, collaborate, and respect you, but also just not letting power go to your head, to be honest?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, and I spent most of my career in leadership roles, management roles, and I learned that one of the key things is seek to understand before you can be understood.
Right.
That's very, very important.
Seek to understand before you can be understood.
That's the key piece, because if you want to connect with people, you have to understand what their agenda is and what they're trying to accomplish. Not in a manipulative way. But as a leader, you should be in a position to help guide those individuals to get to an outcome that they're looking for.
Right.
I don't care whether you're a manager or you're running your company or whatever you're doing or what Reggie does. You have to be able to connect with people. Because I always thrive that as a leader, and I've said this a number of times, your responsibility is to create an environment that people want to be engaged in and that they can thrive in. Now, wanting to be is different than having to be.
Right.
Feel like you have to. So you want to get that kind of engagement. People want, to come to work and be a part of what you're trying to accomplish. They buy into the mission and what you're selling, right? Because that's where you get the discretionary effort, that people stay late, they prepare, they work a little harder because they want to just not do it for what they need, but also for you as a leader. So I've learned how to really pay attention and understand the people that I'm working with and make sure I understand their goals and agendas, and I can connect with that and being able to lead that way. I think that's extremely important. I learned that over time.
And you guys love sports like I do, minus golf.
Yeah.
I try to track coaches that I feel empowered. You know how some coaches just have it?
Yeah.
And some coaches, you guys can see imposters. I don't care. Yeah. First day press conference, everybody's saying the right ish.
Yeah.
And then you just see it fall apart, whether it's the successful ones like the Mike Tomlins. That's why I'm a big Nick Saban guy. Not all the politics, but that's why I love college football. From a leadership standpoint, one man, the CEO, the head coach, has the ability to get that many people to row the boat in the same direction. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 victories per year. It's not just about talent, not just about money. It's about the leadership and the culture. And that's what I'm inspired by. And I see not that I know more X's and O's and so on, but I know I can walk into a lot of high school locker rooms just because who I am and who I strive to be and say, I can make your team 6 to 8 points better. Give me an hour. Mm-hmm. If you listen and then you apply and you make that the standard, I know I can do it. Because a lot of people just don't demand excellence. Not even excellence. They just don't demand decent work consistently. Right. It's not clear. And just hearing you talk about those steps and those foundations that you've been built on, that's what's missing with a lot of our teams. That's what's missing. F the teams. That's what's missing inside a lot of our homes.
Yeah.
Single family, we just don't have standards. So I know I'm getting off tangent now, but I'm passionate about it. But it's like, hell with Alabama. What's going on down the street with just come home when you want to come home? I didn't have that. I was afraid of my daddy. My standard was set. Yeah. Then when I realized, okay, he ain't gonna put his hands on me no more. Because I'm not gonna do anything that's not going to incite that reaction. And then I'm like, he can't catch my fast ass anyway. But I knew what it was, and that has never left me. Never left. I'm not saying I was perfect. Obviously some stuff, God rest his soul, he don't want to know about still. Right. But the accountability, you said, Coach said, you're almost late. You knew what that meant.
I think that, and I'm gonna stay on the Nick Saban thing, because when you said that name, and he talked about, and I learned this with him, I think I shared it with my wife and shared it with Reggie, is, what kind of leader are you? Are you a transactional leader, or are you a transformational leader?
Yes.
Both can be, you can get success from. Yeah. But being a transactional leader is not as sustainable.
No.
You will burn your people out. And one of the things that Nick Saban talked about is that when he made that transition to become more of a transformational leader, that meant that I didn't just focus on results and an outcome, because a result gives a reaction, either good or bad.
Right.
When you start focusing on the process, right, that's when you start becoming more of a transformational leader, right? And understanding what people, the roles, and having a vision for the people and teams and individuals that are inside your organization or inside your team, and what they can play and how they can contribute to that. That's when you can become a transformational leader. So I'm interested you brought that up.
In today's college sports landscape, I think that if you are a transactional leader, if you're great at it, you can go from bottom of the conference to the top immediately, because it's kind of those guys who come in and you get you hyped. You only got to sustain it for 8 months. You don't have to sustain it year after year, because you're going to have a whole new group of guys. So whatever you're serving, whatever you're dishing up, guys just got to buy into it. By the time they figure out that you on some BS, they're leaving anyway.
Exactly.
So I can see how coaches like Nick and Tony, and not even getting into their business, why guys might say, okay, college coaching isn't for me anymore. It's a whole nother conversation. But if I'm a young coach who's able to lean in to where these young men and women athletes are, identify them, see them, respect that they're different, things that we would have just thrown under the rug or say, he got a problem. No, everyone learns different now. Kids aren't coming in all on the same level playing field. But those coaches that can lean into that, I was at Georgia Tech practice with Dame. It's a trip to walk into a practice and you got music blasting. First thing I asked, I'm like, does Rick Pitino got music playing? Somebody said probably, because you got to lean into where your players are. That's what it is. You can't you can't get them to buy into what you're selling and teaching them if you're not meeting them halfway. Can you imagine having music playing when Stu was coaching?
Stu did have a little music.
He had music?
Oh, yeah.
Hall Notes, what the hell was y'all listening to?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Had a little R&B going.
Okay.
He used to have a little bit of
Shout out, Stu. My apologies.
Yeah. Stu had it. Don't sleep on Stu.
He had a vibe?
No, he had a little vibe.
I'm going to have to ask Calvin about that.
But I think it's more, but the only way I would counter on is I think that the distinction, and Guyton mentioned this, that he thinks that it's going to change, evolve. This whole setup is going to change, evolve. But I think that the leaders that can become transformational in this environment are the ones that are going to get more kids to stay, right? And so I think that's going to be a competitive differentiator. Yeah, you can be transactional. It works for now. But I think those leaders that are going to be able to get kids to stay, even in this environment.
And believe. Agree. Yes.
Those are the programs that are going to be able to take it to the next level in this current structure. That's what I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Both of you. Let's go Reg first.
Yeah.
Think about it. You only get one word. That's not fair, but that's what I do. One leadership trait that you learn specifically from competing in sports that's prepared you today. Name the one leadership trait. Not the skill, but the leadership trait. We've been talking about Nick, we've been talking about Mr. Wall, we've been talking about Stu, leadership trait that you learned through sports, whether it directly affected you or something that you saw and you knew that you wanted to model as a leader.
I got to shout out to this shirt I'm wearing, man. It's Kobe, man. It's
Mr. Five Rings, the Mamba, the Black Mamba.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's discipline.
Yeah.
You know, discipline. If I could add a second word, I would.
I'm gonna go ahead and add it.
Habits.
My show.
Habits. You know, man. Habits, good habits, but discipline.
Yeah. Kobe as a player, obviously respect his talent, love to watch him as an individual. It wasn't until the last couple of years after his passing that a lot of his mindset is now available on YouTube.
Yeah.
When I'm doing things I'm supposed to be doing, I have more Kobe Bryant and more Ed Millett and more Ryan Leak and more Eric Thomas, and I can go on and on. Yeah. Then I have Tribe Called Quest, Biggie, and the other side of my life. My digital diet is much better. Yeah. So when I heard Mike Tyson say that discipline is doing what you hate to do but acting like you love it, that changed. Not that that was rocket science, but it was so clear coming from a guy like Mike, who I looked up to as the baddest man on the planet. And then I look at when I'm going through my own life, I can be very transparent. I can look in the mirror and know when I'm locked in. Right. Yeah. And the last couple months, I've been on some BS. Yeah. So that discipline that you talked about is so hard to maintain.
Yeah, yeah. And I tell you how I landed on that is that Tony Evans, I listen to Tony Evans' podcast every 30 minutes, man. And he gave a sermon about your destiny. And he said, your destiny is determined by the decisions you make today. Mm-hmm. And all that equals discipline, right? So we don't do what we want to do, we do what we have to do. Right. And so, yeah, that discipline is the one word.
Okay. Tony.
Reggie stole one I was going to say. I mean, discipline is very important, but I think it's resilience then, right? I think you have to be able to demonstrate a willingness to back. When you talk about athletically and these things that we pursue athletically, especially when you're talking about being, even a high school ball player, the percentages can get pretty low because there's so many in a pool for you to be able to make it. Now you're talking about being a college basketball player or a D1 ball player. I mean, you got 500,000 people that want to play college basketball every year. So when you talk about discipline, that's why that's important because you got to stay on the path. But are you resilient as a leader? I think people are attracted to working for leaders that do. It's easy to see what somebody does when things are going well.
Most definitely.
When things are not going right, or that deal is slipping away, or that account is not. It's now saying they want to go and do business with somebody else, or the coaches give you a hard time and telling you, "Hey, I'm going to start somebody else tomorrow." How do you deal with that mentally, right? And are you resilient enough to bounce back? And can you run it back? Just a really, really quick story. And I told Guyton this. There's a guy not many people know, Bernard Yarbrough, who's from here. Okay. And when I was in the sixth grade, I was MVP of my team at Wild Security. And I thought I was hot.
The one that was better than ASP?
The one that was better than ASP.
Okay.
And I went down to Irving Park one day, and there wasn't that many people down there. And Bernard asked me to play some one-on-one. He was a year older than me. He hit so many jumpers in my face that day. Made my throat hurt, right? And sent me home.
Hold on. Yeah. First off, you went to the park.
Yes.
And you played one-on-one.
Yes.
Outside.
Oh, yeah.
Man, we must be in a time warp right now.
Oh, yes.
That's how I first met him.
Yeah.
We was doing one-on-one.
Playing ball outside. Yeah, playing one-on-one outside. And so, you have to be able to bounce back from all those different, difficulties that you have. So I think resiliency is very important.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's so many words, we could go on and on and on because great leaders have them, but something else that I've recently leaned into, and I do a lot of self-talk. Not that it's some, Zen thing, but I'm pretty honest with where I need to be doing and when I'm not doing it.
Right.
So the other thing I've learned from I'm listening to these life coaches that I'm calling is just no one cares about your feelings. And I think that a lot of our young people, I don't feel like doing it. Yeah. I don't feel like that. I tell myself, I don't feel like, what up, Edwin? I said, I don't feel like getting up this morning. So I have to really do a lot of self-talk and go, no one cares about how I feel. Yeah. I have a job to do. I have a responsibility to myself. I have a responsibility, obviously, to our family. Yeah. And when I'm blessed enough to get home and lay my head down on my soft, I can actually use a firm pillow actually. Yeah. But when I keep the commitments I make to myself, I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
I feel very good. I know I'm on track. But because I like to be upfront, whether I'm on BS or whatnot, when I'm not doing that. So I think that's the hardest time when I realize I'm not keeping the commitments to myself. Number one, because I'm not being disciplined. Number two, I'm not showing resilience. Or I had a buddy of mine call me out. He goes, Rivers, you're just too comfortable, bro. And this was 2 years ago. You've gotten comfortable. And that hurt.
Yeah.
Because he was basically calling me soft. And he was right. And that really helped change a lot of the things I want to do. So now, I'm striving. I'm 57, but I know I need to run for another 10 years, like at a high rate. And so just you guys being here and you guys instilling and sharing me this information, like I'm being fueled by this. And this is why I'm doing it. This is why this is about. This is not about anything else. If there'll be 5 of us, I know 5 people who are gonna watch this. I'm gonna make my son sit down, so we're 6 for sure. But no different than the Runn It Back podcast. I just want to put, and there's a lot of great platforms for people to find, but no one's heard it from us. No one's heard it from 2 guys who grew up predominantly in Northeast Portland and grown to run multi-million-dollar businesses, have great families, be successful, and that's what I'm passionate about.
What I would say about that comfort comment is, I can't have a 30-year career and not be comfortable at some point during that 30-year career, you know what I'm saying? And so what I've found is that your growth zone is outside of your comfort zone.
Say it again.
Your growth zone is outside of your comfort zone.
Okay.
And so that doesn't, if you're comfortable in only shooting right-hand layups and can't go left, you got to get in the lab and learn how to go left. And it's going to be uncomfortable, but once you have that breakthrough, it's going to take you to that next level. And it's those type of things that make it successful.
I think, to your point and to Riz's point, I would say you get great when nobody's looking.
There you go.
Talk about that hard piece that you're talking about. I work out 4 days a week. Do I want to work out? Hell no.
I whine every day I go. I whine every day I go. Like
I try to talk myself, man.
Every day.
Do it, man. And then after I do it,
oh my gosh! Then what do they call them? Them endorphins or dopamine, whatever. Can't tell me nothing.
Watching.
No one's watching.
So I think whatever you want to do, or somebody's watching this, your son, whatever. You get really good on something when nobody's looking, because that's the time when you're putting in the work. There's no recognition behind how much time you prepared for this podcast.
Right? No one cares. No one cares.
But the output shows that you have prepared for it. So I think that's one of the secrets.
My quote on that, I don't remember. I like to give people their credit, and you've heard it before, or you've heard a variation because there's hundreds. But what stuck with me is a man is rewarded in public for what he does in private.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I know you guys heard it, but I still get chills.
Absolutely.
I still get the chills talking about it. So what you just said is whether it's the time you've invested in building a business, the time you've invested in starting a business, the time you've invested in just preparing just to be dad.
That's right.
Yeah.
And when I think about, and I listen to a lot of Tom Brady because Tom is actually funny. He can be arrogant.
Yeah.
Because if you're telling the truth, are you being arrogant?
Yeah.
It's just truth. And I want to make sure I continually consistent feed my brain. There's a guy by the name of Jay Shetty, who's one of the biggest podcasters out there. My daughter, she turned me on to him. Okay. He has a terminology called digital diet. What are you consuming? So as much as I want this to be consumed, I want people to see it, we got to post about it, I got to make sure I'm producing content as just consuming the wrong content, because I only have so much space in my mind.
Right.
And it's a hard line. So when I first got on Instagram, which shocked people who knew me, because I was like, I didn't do Facebook till probably 18 months ago.
Yeah.
I still don't do it.
Right.
But I know that I need to control what my digital diet is, because when it's off, and I know when it's off, I get comfortable. I'm too into what Pat McAfee's talking about. I'm too into what Stephen A. I can get caught up in the political narrative, and I'm all out of sort. Yeah. So just as a 57-year-old person with drive and determination trying to control my digital diet, 13, 14-year-olds ain't got no effing chance.
Yeah.
No chance.
Yeah.
The most important thing is to quiet that other noise.
Quiet the noise.
You can't listen to it, right? And you got to quiet, because like you said, there's so much out there that you should be listening to.
Yeah.
You definitely don't have time to listen to what you should not be listening to.
I think that's digital diet. That's a good time for me.
Yeah. No, when I heard that was like, okay, TV, I'm reading, phone, text, consuming, YouTube. I'm like, I took the TikTok app off. I just can't be involved in every platform. My son, you didn't see it? Like, hell no, I didn't see it. If you don't send it directly to me, I'm probably not going to see it.
Yeah.
And if it's big enough, everybody else is going to be talking about it. Before we transition out of this third quarter leadership and mentorship, how do you two define success in any capacity? I don't even want to put guardrails on it now than differently than how you defined it as how many points I averaged. Did we win? Did my team get to the playoffs? How do you define success? Or talk about changes you've made and evolved in how you define success. Me, I'll just go first. Family good, I'm good.
Yeah.
So let's just take family out of it.
Right.
But how do you define success but how do you guys define success? Can you?
I'm gonna tell you a story as it relates to that, and you were a part of that because you were a part of that journey, and that was that AAU basketball program that I started, specifically the Portland Panthers team when I had young men. At that point, they were in high school, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, and they were developing into manhood, right? So I can tell you we made it to, the Elite Eight.
In Vegas.
Big time
Yes.
down in Vegas
Yes.
and all
I was hyped. Portland representing.
We had a great run, man. We had some good runs in some other spots, man.
Yeah.
We did well. We never lost a game in the state of Oregon. I mean, all of that, right? But the success that I had that mean the most to me is when, and I'm not going to name these players, but when one of my players asked my wife and I to be his marriage coach in premarital counseling. Another kid just got married 3 weeks ago. He not only did he invite me and my wife to come to the wedding, but he wrote a very lengthy personal note acknowledging that. At that wedding, he had some teammates that I coached there. They came up to me and they said, man, you were the most important figure in my life. That is success that wasn't measured by wins and losses, even though we had that shared goal of winning the big time or what have you. And the journey, we enjoyed the journey. But success was defined by who they became as young men, right? And I'll never forget in college, one of my professors, my political science professor, said that the education is what you remember once you graduate. It's not the what you are studying for on the test and the grade that you get in that class. The education is what you remember and you apply once you graduate. And so that was a definition of success then that was given to me outside of the classroom that I didn't know how to apply it. But now I understand. When I'm looking at gross profit margins and marketing strategies and market penetration and all those other things, it's based on, it has nothing to do with a test, but I know that those things are important to having a successful business.
Oh, I tell every young coach, you won't know the impact you had on young men until they come back 5 years later. That's what you just told me.
Yeah.
Jules Milstead, coaching M12s from Oakland. He's 46 now. His son is graduating from college. We're still like this.
Yeah.
And Jules terrorized me in 1992 in that first 15-passenger van ride in Las Vegas. I'll never forget.
Yeah.
But those moments you talked about, moments you shared with Josh last night, and I tell young coaches, not about this. We all want to be competitive. We all want to be respected, but you really want to know about the impact until some time has passed. Because at that point, they choose to come back.
Yeah.
Josh chose to come last night.
Yeah.
Other guys who could have came, they don't have to. And that's how I know that I didn't mess kids up too much now. Because at 25, Coach Rivers was a hot mess. Yeah. You know, I didn't know any different. You could just say things that you definitely would get an email from, or somebody's parents would have texted you 20 minutes after by now. But Tony, on to you, because we're going to wrap this up in about 6 or 7 minutes.
No, I think Reggie articulated it well. I think that, what I've learned is, and this has been said before, success is not necessarily a destination. For me, I've learned that, you can get financial success, you can have career success. I think for me, what success is all about is, and I go back to this, create an environment. Can you create an environment that people can thrive in, your family can thrive in, your kids can thrive in? I've been married we just celebrated our 33rd anniversary on September 26th.
Very cool.
Being able to cultivate those kind of relationships, where you can have impact and where people want to be a part of it, and your family, your wife, your kids, and then looking back, and you talk about people choosing to come back. Do your kids choose to come back and see you? They don't have to, when they're gone. And so that to me is a part of success, is the things that you've done to help people, and they see the value in it, and they still want to be a part of you and still want to learn from you. So I think that's success is not necessarily a destination. It's something we're always trying to pursue.
Okay, last couple minutes before I get into some just hot hitters. Talk about the Runn It Back podcast. Folks, this is kind of how these talks started 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Very similar. Yeah. I don't know, a friend of mine heard me speak. Mm-hmm. And she just said, hey, something about words matter. And it just stuck with me, man. Yeah. And as a parent, as a husband, as a business person, words really matter. But talk about what you guys want to accomplish, what you want to achieve, what you want people to tune in to. And because this is just a sample of it, folks. Like, take this, but take an hour. These are two heavy hitters. I wanted to have them both because Hamp is in town, but I could have did an hour and a half with each. But just talk about what you guys are hoping to share and transfer of knowledge and experiences a little more deeper than you did right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Hamp dive into that, because I've been actively involved with basketball all my life, and I've been actively involved in business all my life. And if there's anything that I would probably say that you could say about me, is that I take that step. I get engaged, I get involved.
You all in when you're all in.
I'm all in, bro. And Hamp reached out to me years ago about doing because he knew I was in golf. He's into golf now. At the time, he wasn't. And man, he talked to me about the Golf Channel. Mm-hmm. And he started talking about the idea of possibly doing a basketball channel, right? Like, man, wouldn't this be great if we just had the basketball? This is before NBA TV and all that other stuff. And so we had that conversation. And then he also wanted to do documentaries, right? And so shortly thereafter, as we tried to reinvent ourselves, the idea of a podcast came up. And so we talked about it, dove deep into it. And here we are. Like I said, we take action. I'll let him talk a little bit more about the program.
Because I'm not here if you didn't make that call.
Yeah. I'm just glad to be a partner with it. Right. So,
I would just real quick, the origin of it, you got to understand where the name Run It Back comes from. If you played ball in the late 70s or in the 80s here in Portland, in Northeast Portland, one of the biggest tests you would see on the basketball court is when the game is over, whether you lost or won, someone would look at you and say, what's up, you want to run it back or not?
Exactly.
Do you want any more of what I just gave you, right? Or if you lost,
you want a chance to run it back.
Be like, yo, man, run it back.
Run it back. Yeah, I'm not moving. I'm not moving.
So you could tell who you're dealing with from a competitive standpoint, a resiliency standpoint, a discipline standpoint, like the words you were talking about, based off those words. Were they willing to come at it again, go at it again? So that's where that comes from. It comes from this community. And hearing that over and over again after you won or after you lost a game. And then so what Run It Back Podcast is to me and also to Reggie is that I think we've got some unique skills that we bring to the table. Having, played basketball athletically at a fairly high level, high school, college level. And then also being in the business world and working for Fortune 100 companies and working for State Farm and being in leadership roles. Yeah. So when you look at you talk about digital diet, it's out there. There's a lot of platforms out there that people are talking about things that maybe they necessarily haven't done. Right. And so I think we bring a unique, I've got 30 plus years experience as a go-to-market leader in technology companies. You already share what he has. Combined with that basketball experience and what we learned from that, I think that's a unique value proposition.
So you saying you guys are walking the talk. Or you've walked the talk.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not talking about anything that you haven't done. You're not talking about anything you read about. You're not talking about any hacks you heard that might work.
No. Yeah.
Either you guys did it, blood, sweat, equity. You failed. Yeah. You've risen. Yeah. You've done that deal. You've brokered that deal. You've lost it. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
And to that point, and not to call anybody out, but my wife and I were watching the podcast of somebody, I can't remember who it was, and they were talking to a lady who was giving advice about relationships. And, she'd never been married. She'd been,
So she read about it a lot.
She read about it a lot.
Yeah.
So we just celebrated his 4th year anniversary. I've been married for 33. She got a lot of people talking about things that they maybe necessarily haven't done. Yeah. And I think the Runn It Back podcast is a real one, that we can go a lot of different ways and talk about business, athletics, and leadership.
Now, there's things I didn't get to, so hopefully y'all put me on the short list for the Runn It Back. Yes. But I wanted to celebrate your daughter's getting married soon.
She got married.
Got
married in March.
Okay.
Year. Yeah, that was a
congrats on that.
Moment. Adrian got married in March, so that was incredible.
And 7 grandchildren?
8. Cameron is so.
Damn, them guidance of be producing.
Abraham.
Abraham. No doubt. Thank you both very much for getting up. Once again, this is Sunday morning. We are at the Alberta Street Pub, Northeast Portland. It's not raining. Yeah. And we was up last night partying, and yes, I think my knees are still hurting from the cha-cha slide, because that right foot stomp is cool, but the 2 jumps, I can't do that no more. Yeah. But I felt it. Yeah. I was feeling good about it. So I love you, brothers. I aspire to be more like you. I appreciate the support, the words, the comments you made on the first, even down to you calling me like, yo, Riv, why you got music going through the whole podcast, bro? I want to hear the words. That's real. We changed that. I'm learning. This is something that I don't know where I want to go with this, but I want to spend time with people I care about. Yeah. I want people to, they catch 60 seconds of a reel, or they're fortunate enough to listen to it while they're in a treadmill, to be inspired. You guys are successes in so many different ways that I want people to truly say, damn, everybody doesn't, I'm hoping I can get Orlando Williams on here. Yeah. There's so many people in just Portland. First, I'm like, I got to call my guy, Mitch from Dallas, there's people in Portland I'm not going to be able to tap into. Right. Yeah. And I'm going to leave you with this, because we're not going to be able to talk about it on this trip. I know Michael Hawthorne has addressed it with you. When Kanan was here, hearing all these great stories about Portland basketball, I want to be a de facto member of Portland. I want to we got to be a doc on Oregon basketball, man. There's so many. I don't know who Richard Washington was. I don't. But everyone talks about him. Oh, yeah. I know the Benson Texters, whatever he's talking about back there. Excuse me, Astros. Demos. I think that between Kane, between you guys, we'll pull up on Nico. Between Dame, and all the guys I don't know. So when we finally get organized, we're gonna get on a Zoom, we're gonna get some people who are passionate and professional and see, can we do something that we're all proud of that can also be a legacy piece. Right. Oh yeah. Yes, we'll get H. Yeah. I exchanged a message with him last week, too much a piece of this, but so that's what, I don't know how to do it, but I just wanted to say it on record that Oregon's adopted me. I've been here 26 years now. Yeah. 26. Yeah. Oakland's always home, right? But this is where I've raised my family and I've cut my teeth. So thank you guys very, very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Riz. Appreciate it. I look forward to where we both can be with this podcast 3 years from now.
No doubt.
Words matter, baby.
Yep. Yeah. Appreciate you guys tuning in to episode 4 of the Words Matter podcast. I'm your host still, Christopher Rivers. And remember, these just aren't interviews. These are leadership moments. As you heard from these 2 gentlemen right here. Please tune in. And I want to thank my man, Michael Hawthorne and the PWG Network for producing this. And it's going to be a great day. Talk to y'all soon.
All right, right on.